Come, settle in and let your mind drift back through the centuries. Imagine a world lit not by screens, but by the flickering light of a candle or the warm glow of a hearth. The air is cool and smells of wood smoke and damp earth. You are there, in a time of discovery, a time when the world was still full of vast, uncharted territories. Picture yourself as a cartographer, your hands stained with ink, carefully drawing the coastlines of newly found lands. You hear tales from sailors, their voices rough with salt and sea, speaking of islands shrouded in mist and creatures that defy imagination. Are their stories true? You can only guess, adding a small, hesitant question mark to the edge of your map. Or perhaps you are a scholar, cloistered away in a monastery library. The silence is broken only by the scratch of your quill on parchment and the distant chime of a bell. You've just received a text from a faraway land, a translation of a translation, its original meaning lost in the mists of time. It speaks of stars that are not stars, of numbers that behave in strange ways, of a world much older and grander than anyone had ever conceived. A thrill of excitement and a tremor of fear run through you. This knowledge is a key, but what door does it unlock? Does it lead to enlightenment, or to a truth so overwhelming that it could shatter the very foundations of your world? Imagine now you are a simple villager, living your life by the rhythm of the seasons. One day, while digging a new well, your shovel strikes something hard. It's not a rock. You and your neighbors gather, pulling from the earth the massive bones of a creature unlike any you have ever seen. They are far too large to belong to a horse or an ox. The village elder, his face etched with the wisdom of years, whispers the word dragon. A collective gasp ripples through the crowd. Is it a warning, a remnant of a vanquished beast, or a sign that its kin still slumber beneath the hills? The discovery doesn't bring comfort. It brings questions and a new, unsettling awareness of the world's hidden depths. In this medieval tapestry, every new finding was a thread, but not every thread was woven into a pattern of comfort and clarity. Some were dark, some were tangled, and some seemed to lead nowhere at all. A strange plant found deep in the forest might yield a powerful cure or a potent poison. An ancient ruin uncovered on a hillside could be the blessed remains of a saint's forgotten chapel or the cursed foundation of a pagan temple. For every discovery that expanded their world, another seemed to shrink the realm of the known and safe, pushing the boundaries of fear and superstition further out. Let's journey deeper into this world of uncertain discoveries. Picture a group of miners, their faces smudged with soot, deep within the mountains of Germany. They are searching for silver, the lifeblood of the kingdom, but often they find a different kind of ore. It looks like silver, it has the weight of it, but when they try to smelt it, it yields nothing but a noxious fume that makes them sick. They don't have a name for this stubborn, deceptive metal. They call it Kupfernickel, which means demon's copper. It's a trick, a curse laid by the mischievous spirits of the mines. They discard it, throwing it onto slag heaps, unaware that they are tossing aside what future generations will simply call nickel. To them, it is not a new element. It is a failure, a sign of ill omen, a frustrating mystery from the heart of the earth itself. Think of the explorers, not on the high seas, but venturing into the dense, dark forests that covered so much of the land. They follow a deer trail, hoping for a hunt, but the trail leads them to a clearing they've never seen before. In the center stands a circle of towering stones, their surfaces covered in moss and strange, swirling carvings. They are ancient, predating any story their grandparents ever told. Who built them, and why? Were they for tracking the sun and moon, as a lone hermit might suggest? Or were they places of sacrifice, as the village priest fears? The stones are silent. They offer no answers, only a profound sense of time and a chilling feeling of being watched by the ghosts of a forgotten people. The explorers back away slowly, marking the place in their minds as one to be avoided, a place where the old world still holds its power. Imagine a physician, one of the most learned of his time. He reads the works of Galen and Avicenna, believing firmly in the four humours, but his patients keep presenting with symptoms that don't fit the classic texts. A new sickness has arrived, carried along the trade routes. It moves with terrifying speed, and none of his traditional remedies, the bloodletting, the herbal poultices, have any effect. He is a man of science, of logic, but his science is failing. Every death is a fresh wound to his understanding. He records the symptoms meticulously, hoping to find a pattern, but the pattern is one of chaos. This is not just a disease, it is a direct challenge to his entire worldview, a horrifying glimpse into the limits of human knowledge in the face of nature's relentless power. Even the heavens, once a symbol of divine order, could offer confusion. One night, a monk tasked with watching the sky sees something new. It is not a star, for it moves. It is not a planet, for its path is erratic. It is a brilliant point of light with a long, ghostly tail, streaking across the familiar constellations. A comet. To the monk, this is not a ball of ice and dust. It is a messenger from God. But what is the message? Is it a promise of a new king, a new era of peace? Or is it a celestial sword, a warning of war, famine, and plague? He prays, his mind reeling, caught between awe and terror. The discovery of this celestial wanderer brings no peace, only a desperate search for meaning in a silent, cosmic sign. Let's drift back to the sea, where so many medieval mysteries began. A fisherman hauls his net, and it is heavier than he has ever known. He struggles, thinking he has snagged a great treasure, but what comes up from the depths is a tangled mass of something that seems both plant and animal. It has long, trailing arms and a gelatinous body that pulses with a faint, otherworldly light. He has never seen a jellyfish this large, this strange. He calls his fellow fishermen over. They poke it with an oar. Is it edible? Is it poisonous? Is it a monster from the abyss? A sign that the sea is angry. They decide it's best to leave it, cutting it from the net and watching it sink back into the dark water, a living riddle that they have no way of solving. Consider a child playing in the ruins of an old Roman villa, a common sight across the countryside. She finds a small, intricately patterned piece of colored glass and stone, a mosaic tile. To her, it is just a pretty pebble, but she shows it to a traveling merchant who recognizes it. He has seen such things in the great cities of the south, in lands that were once the heart of a mighty empire. He tries to explain to the villagers that this entire hill was once a grand house with heated floors and painted walls. They look at their own simple wattle and daub huts and cannot comprehend it. It sounds like a fairy tale. The idea that such a magnificent world existed right under their feet and then vanished is too vast, too unsettling. It suggests that their own world, which feels so permanent, could just as easily fade into ruin and be forgotten. Imagine a beekeeper, a woman who knows the hum of her hives like the sound of her own breathing. One spring, she notices something is wrong. The bees are agitated, confused, many are dying. She checks the hives, the surrounding flowers, the water source. Nothing has changed. She doesn't know about colony collapse. She doesn't know about mites or pesticides. To her, this is a form of dark magic. Has a rival put a curse on her hives? Has she angered a local nature spirit? She performs a small ritual, leaving an offering of honey and milk by the oldest tree in the wood, hoping to appease whatever unseen force is troubling her precious bees. Her discovery is not one of new knowledge, but of a new and inexplicable vulnerability. Each of these moments, these quiet collisions with the unknown, added a layer of complexity to the medieval mind. It was a world where a fossil could be a dragon's bone, a comet could be a divine omen, and a forgotten technology could seem like the work of giants or magicians. They were navigating a landscape where the map of the known world was small, and the territory of mystery was vast and ever-present. These discoveries were not always celebrated as progress. More often, they were sources of anxiety, whispers of powers and realities beyond their comprehension, reminding them of how much they did not know. And in that not knowing, there was a strange kind of humility, a deep-seated sense of wonder, and a constant, low thrum of fear. As you drift off to sleep, let these gentle mysteries cradle you, a reminder of a time when the world was full of shadows and secrets, in every stone, star, and creature held the potential for a new and unsettling revelation. Rest now. Sleep well.
The gentle tolling of the distant church bell marks the hour, as it always has. Here, in the small town of Oakhaven, nestled amongst rolling green hills, time moves at its own unhurried pace. The cobbled streets, usually bustling with the morning's activities, are strangely quiet today. A lone cart rumbles past, its wooden wheels echoing in the stillness. A few windows are shuttered, which is unusual for such a fine morning. There's a subtle, unspoken question hanging in the air, a quiet disquiet that ripples beneath the surface of our peaceful lives. It began subtly, with whispers on the market square. Old Man Hemlock, the baker, was said to have taken to his bed with a fever that wouldn't break. A few days later, the weaver's youngest daughter complained of a deep chill, even by the warmth of the hearth. These were common enough ailments, especially as the seasons turned. We attributed it to a bad batch of grain, or perhaps the damp air rolling in from the fens. Simple explanations for simple problems. That's how we've always understood the world. A poultice of herbs, a warm broth, a few days of rest. These were the remedies passed down through generations. But then, more families began to keep to their homes. The cheerful chatter of children playing tag in the alleyways faded, replaced by an unnerving silence. The blacksmith's forge, usually ringing with the sound of hammer on anvil from dawn till dusk, has fallen quiet. The scent of wood smoke still hangs in the air, but it's different now. Less a sign of cozy hearths and more a signal of isolation, of doors barred not against the cold, but against an unseen visitor. We look at our neighbors with a new kind of gaze, one of concern, but also of a nascent, unacknowledged fear. We thought it was just a passing sickness, a seasonal flu. We were wrong. The silence deepens, and the empty streets seem to hold their breath, waiting. History often looks back on these moments with the clarity of hindsight, labeling them with stark, definitive names. But for those living through them, the beginning is never so clear. It's a slow, creeping realization, like the tide turning almost imperceptibly at first. For us in Oakhaven, it was a collection of unrelated misfortunes. When the tailor, a man known for his robust constitution, suddenly grew weak, we blamed his long hours. When the innkeeper's wife lost her sense of taste, her husband joked that she'd finally tired of his cooking. We lived by the rhythms of the seasons and the church. Our understanding of sickness was woven into our faith and folklore. Illness was a test from God, a consequence of sin, or perhaps the work of unseen spirits dwelling in the marshlands. The village healer, a wise woman named Ilara, did her best with what she knew. She prescribed bitter teas made from yarrow and willow bark to fight the fevers. She hung bundles of lavender and thyme in doorways to purify the air, their fragrant scent a small comfort against the growing unease. We prayed. In the cold stone church, we gathered, though our numbers were dwindling. The priest spoke of penance and divine will, his voice echoing in the vaulted space that now seemed emptier than ever before. We looked for signs and portents, a comet in the night sky, a flock of crows circling the bell tower. We sought patterns where there were none, desperate to find a reason, a logic to the suffering that was slowly encircling our town. The idea of a disease that could pass from person to person, invisibly, through a simple breath or touch, was a concept as foreign as the distant lands merchants spoke of. We were fighting an enemy we couldn't comprehend, and couldn't comprehend. The silence that had first fallen upon Oakhaven began to change. It was no longer a peaceful quiet, but a heavy, oppressive stillness. The absence of sound became a sound in itself. The absence of laughter from the tavern, the absence of song from the fields, the absence of gossip over garden fences. Life contracted, pulling inward. Families became islands, their front doors the borders of their known world. Trust, the very bedrock of our small community, began to fray. A cough from across the street was no longer just a cough, it was a potential threat. A neighbor's request for a cup of flour was met with a moment's hesitation. We began to watch each other, not with the familiar comfort of community, but with the wary eyes of strangers. Who was sick? Who might be next? The questions were never spoken aloud, but they hung in the space between us. The economy of our small town, so reliant on daily interaction, ground to a halt. The market square, the vibrant heart of Oakhaven, was now a desolate expanse of cobblestones. The weaver's loom was still, the potter's wheel unmoving. We had always been self-sufficient, but our sufficiency was built on a network of exchange, of shared labor and mutual support. Now, that network was broken. People relied on what they had stored, their larders and cellars becoming a measure of their chances for survival. This period wasn't one of panic, not yet. It was a time of deep, unsettling confusion. The world we knew, with its predictable patterns and established truths, was dissolving before our eyes. The old remedies failed. The prayers felt unanswered. The sickness did not discriminate between the pious and the sinner, the rich and the poor. It defied all our explanations, leaving us adrift in a sea of uncertainty, clutching the fragments of a world that no longer made sense. Then, a new sound began to punctuate the silence, the slow, rhythmic toll of a single church bell, not the cheerful chime marking the hour, but the solemn, mournful knell announcing a passing. At first, it was an occasional sad punctuation to our days. Then, it became more frequent. The bell tolled for the baker. It tolled for the weaver's daughter. It tolled day after day, a constant, somber reminder of the invisible tide sweeping through our town. Each toll was a fresh wave of grief and fear. We knew who it was for without needing to be told. In a town this small, every life was interwoven with the others. Every loss was a thread pulled from our shared tapestry, leaving a hole that weakened the whole. The sound of that bell became the soundtrack to our lives, a metronome counting out our losses. It was this sound that finally shattered our collective denial. The whispers of a bad fever or a seasonal malady died away, replaced by a new, terrifying word, carried on the wind by a traveling merchant who had passed through a neighboring village: plague. The word itself felt like a curse. It named the formless dread that had haunted us. It gave a face to the monster at our door. The recognition brought not relief, but a new, sharper kind of fear. Panic, long held at bay by confusion, began to set in. Those who could fled, taking only what they could carry, hoping to outrun the sickness. But for most of us, there was nowhere to go. Oakhaven was our entire world. We were bound to this land, to these homes, to each other, for better or for worse. The town, once a haven of peace and community, began to feel like a trap. The silent streets were no longer just empty. They were haunted by the ghosts of what was and the fear of what was to come. As the days turned into weeks, a strange new normal emerged from the chaos. The initial panic subsided, replaced by a grim resignation and a fierce, primal instinct to endure. We were isolated, but we were not entirely alone. Humanity, even when faced with the unimaginable, finds ways to connect, to help, to hope. Acts of quiet courage became the new currency of our community. Though we feared contact, we could not let our neighbors starve. A loaf of bread would be left on a doorstep. A bucket of fresh water from the well would appear outside a quarantined home. These were small acts, performed in the quiet of dawn or the shadow of dusk, anonymous gestures of solidarity that kept the last embers of our community alive. Ilara, the healer, never stopped working. Though her traditional remedies were failing, she offered what she could: comfort. She sat with the sick from a safe distance and offered soothing words. She instructed families on how to care for their loved ones, on the importance of cleanliness, of fresh air, of separating the sick from the healthy. These were simple, practical ideas, born not of ancient lore, but of careful observation. In the absence of a cure, she offered care, a profound act of defiance against the despair that threatened to consume us all. We began to mark our doors. A white cross meant the sickness was inside. It was a stark and brutal system, but it was a system. It was an attempt to impose order on the chaos, to map the unseen enemy. It was a warning, but it was also a plea for help, a signal to the community that the people within needed support. And so we learned a new way of living. We learned to communicate from across the street, shouting news and words of encouragement. We learned to find joy in the smallest of things: a sunny day, the taste of clean water, the sight of a healthy family member. We learned to live with the constant presence of loss, to mourn our dead, and then to turn our attention back to the living. The bells still tolled, but we learned to hear it, not just as a sound of death, but as a call to keep fighting, to keep caring, to keep surviving for one more day. In the heart of the deepest darkness, Oakhaven was discovering a new, more resilient kind of light. Thank you for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this reflection meaningful, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more stories from the annals of history. Stay curious and stay well. Settle in, get cozy, and let's drift back in time together. Imagine a small, quiet room lit only by the soft, flickering light of a single candle. Here, a healer named Ilara is carefully untying the leather straps of a heavy, ancient book. This isn't just any book. It's a repository of medical knowledge passed down through generations. The pages are brittle, the ink faded, but within them lie the secrets of healing as understood in her time. As Ilara opens the cover, a whisper of dust rises into the candlelight. Her fingers, stained with tinctures and balms, trace the elegant, hand-drawn illustrations. There's a detailed map of the human body, but it looks a little different from what we know today. It shows the four humors: blood, phlegm, yellow, bile, and black bile, flowing through the body like rivers. In her world, health is all about balance. A fever isn't caused by a virus. It's a sign of too much blood. A lingering sadness isn't just an emotion. It's an excess of black bile. Every ache, every cough, every sigh is a clue to this delicate internal dance. Her gaze lands on a section about remedies. It speaks of a poultice made from mallow root and honey to soothe an angry rash, a simple, gentle treatment that whispers of the kindness of nature. There's a recipe for a calming tea, a blend of chamomile and lavender to quiet a troubled mind and invite sleep. These are the tools of her trade, a blend of observation, tradition, and a deep respect for the healing power of the world around her. She wasn't just treating symptoms. She was trying to restore harmony to the whole person, guided by the wisdom held in these fragile, precious pages. Tonight, we're going to journey through this book with Ilara, exploring the curious, sometimes strange, and often beautiful world of medieval medicine. So, let your mind relax. Let the quiet of Ilara's study surround you, and let's turn the page together. The first chapter Ilara turns to is on the doctrine of signatures. This was a belief that was incredibly intuitive and poetic. It held that the Creator had left clues or signatures in plants to show what they could be used for. A plant with a heart-shaped leaf, for example, was believed to be good for the heart. Walnuts, with their brain-like shape, were thought to enhance intellect and soothe headaches. Lungwort, a plant with spotted leaves that resembled diseased lungs, was used for respiratory ailments. Elara runs her finger over a drawing of a bright yellow celandine flower. The text beside it explains that its golden sap, the color of bile, makes it a perfect remedy for jaundice, a condition that turns the skin yellow. It's a beautiful, if not always scientifically accurate, way of seeing the world, a world where nature itself is a living apothecary, speaking a language of shape, color, and form. She recalls gathering celandine by the riverbank just yesterday, its cheerful flowers a promise of healing. She continues, turning the fragile pages, the soft crackle, the only sound in the room. The next section details the practice of zodiacal man. This was the belief that each part of the body was governed by a sign of the zodiac. Aries ruled the head, Taurus the neck, Gemini the arms, and so on, all the way down to Pisces, which governed the feet. This wasn't just a quirky superstition, it was a practical guide for healers. A treatment, especially a surgical one, would never be performed when the moon was in the zodiac sign corresponding to that part of the body. To do so was considered incredibly risky. So, if a patient had an ailment in their legs, ruled by Aquarius, Elara would consult her almanac. She'd track the moon's journey through the constellations, waiting for it to move into a different sign before proceeding with any significant intervention. It was a system that connected the human body not just to the earth, but to the cosmos, seeing a person as a small universe, a microcosm reflecting the grand design of the heavens. It required a healer to be not just a botanist, but an astronomer as well. Elara pauses, her thoughts drifting to a young boy she treated last week. He had a persistent cough, and his parents were worried. Following the book's guidance, she had first determined his humoral imbalance. His pale skin and lethargy suggested an excess of phlegm, a cold and moist humor. The remedy wasn't a harsh chemical, but a gentle rebalancing act. She prescribed foods that were warm and dry, toasted bread, roasted chicken, and a little wine spiced with ginger and cloves. She also had him inhale the steam from a pot of boiled hyssop and thyme herbs believed to have drying properties. It was a slow medicine, a patient medicine. It took days, but gradually the boy's energy returned. For Elara, this was a validation of the ancient knowledge. She hadn't fought a battle against a disease. She had gently nudged his body back towards its natural state of equilibrium. It was like tending a garden, patiently weeding, watering, and waiting for the sun to do its work. The book also contains warnings, of course. It speaks of miasmas, or bad air, believed to rise from swamps and decaying matter, carrying sickness with them. To counter this, people carried pomanders, small, ornate containers filled with aromatic substances like ambergris, cloves, and cinnamon. They would hold these to their noses when walking through crowded streets, creating a small, fragrant bubble of protection. Elara herself keeps a small pouch of dried lavender and rosemary tucked into her sleeve. Its clean, sharp scent is a constant, comforting companion, a shield against the unseen dangers of the world. She turns a page and finds a detailed section on wound care. While we might imagine medieval medicine as brutal, much of it was surprisingly gentle and effective. The book recommends washing wounds with wine, which we now know acted as a mild antiseptic due to the alcohol content. It also describes a dressing made from clean linen soaked in honey. Honey, as we've rediscovered, has natural antibacterial properties and helps keep a wound moist, promoting faster healing. Elara remembers a farmer who came to her with a nasty gash on his arm from a scythe. Panic was in his eyes, as such an injury could easily lead to a fatal infection. Calmly, she had cleaned the wound as the book instructed, packed it with a thick golden honey, and bound it tightly. She saw him just this morning at the market, his arm almost fully healed, leaving only a faint pink scar. He had gifted her a basket of fresh eggs, his gratitude a far greater reward than any coin. The night deepens, and the candle burns lower, its flame dancing and casting long shadows on the walls. Ilara feels a familiar sense of peace settle over her. This book is not just a collection of remedies, it is a legacy. It represents a continuous chain of observation, of trial and error, of knowledge passed from one curious mind to another. Some of the ideas within it might seem strange to a future generation, she muses. They might laugh at the idea of the four humors or the zodiacal man, but she hopes they will also see the core of it all, a profound desire to ease suffering. They would see healers who listened intently to their patients, who used the gentle power of plants, and who looked for answers not just in the body, but in the soul and the stars. They would see a medicine that was deeply, fundamentally human. Slowly, carefully, Ilara closes the heavy cover. The leather straps are tied, securing the wisdom within for another day. The scent of old paper and dried herbs hangs in the air, a soothing perfume for the coming sleep. The knowledge of the past is safe, ready to guide the healing of the future. As the single candle is gently extinguished, the room is plunged into a soft, quiet darkness, a perfect space for rest and dreams. Thank you for joining me on this quiet journey tonight. I hope it brought you a sense of calm and curiosity. Follow along for more stories to help you unwind and drift off. Sweet dreams. Beneath the cobblestones of our modern cities, layers of history lie sleeping. Imagine you're a construction worker. Your drill bites into something unexpected. Not rock, not soil, but a void, a hollow space that shouldn't be there. The air that rushes out is cool, smelling of damp earth and something ancient, something forgotten. This isn't a movie scene. It's a reality that has unfolded in cities across the world, from Rome to Edinburgh, Paris to Prague. This is the moment a hidden world is rediscovered. For 2 minutes, let's just listen. Listen to the echo of footsteps in a tunnel freshly unearthed after centuries of silence. Each step a conversation with the past. The drip of water from a stone ceiling is a clock ticking away the ages. The faint whisper of air currents is the breath of a city long gone. This is the sound of history, raw and unfiltered. It's a world built by hands that vanished centuries ago. A world of secrets, of refuge, of forgotten passages that once pulsed with life. Today, we're venturing into these subterranean landscapes, peeling back the layers of time to uncover the quiet mysteries that lie just beneath our feet. Medieval towns weren't just built, they evolved. They grew upwards, outwards, and, most mysteriously, downwards. As streets were paved and repaved, as buildings rose and fell, the ground level of a city would slowly rise. What was once a ground floor cellar could, over a century, become a sub-basement. What was a sunken lane might be arched over and built upon, transforming into a hidden passage. This process, known as urban stratification, is like a geological record of human life. Each layer tells a story of a different era. The reasons for building these underground networks were as varied as the cities themselves. In times of war and siege, they were lifelines, Tunnels could be used to smuggle food and supplies into a besieged city, or as secret escape routes for its citizens. Think of the Siu Chi tunnels in Vietnam, a modern example, and you can imagine the vital role their medieval counterparts played. Soldiers could also use them for surprise attacks, emerging behind enemy lines in a tactic known as sapping. These were not just passages, they were weapons of war, silent and deadly. But it wasn't all about conflict. Commerce was a huge driver. In crowded cities where space was at a premium, underground vaults and cellars were essential for storing goods. Wine, grain, textiles all were kept safe and cool in the constant temperature of the earth. In some cities, entire underground markets thrived, away from the rain and the crush of the streets above. These weren't dark, scary places. They were bustling hubs of daily life, just hidden from the sun. Religion and ritual also played a part. Catacombs, originally used as burial sites by early Christians, are perhaps the most famous examples. But other secret societies and religious groups also used underground chambers for their meetings, hidden from prying eyes and persecution. These spaces offered a sanctuary where faith could be practiced freely. The Knights Templar, for example, are famously associated with a network of tunnels, a legend that fuels treasure hunters to this day. Whether for storing riches or for sacred ceremonies, these subterranean spaces were shrouded in mystery. Let's journey to a specific place, Edinburgh, Scotland. The city's old town is a labyrinth of steep hills and narrow alleys, called closes. But beneath these closes lies another city, the Edinburgh Vaults, built in the late 18th century within the arches of the South Bridge. These were not ancient medieval tunnels, but they quickly became a part of the city's dark folklore. Initially intended as workshops for cobblers, smelters, and other tradesmen, and as storage space, the vaults were plagued by dampness and poor air quality. Legitimate businesses moved out, and the underworld moved in. The vaults became a slum, a place of unimaginable poverty. They were home to the city's most destitute and rife with illicit taverns, gambling dens, and criminal activity. The infamous body snatchers, Burke and Hare, were rumored to have prowled these vaults, storing the bodies of their victims before selling them to the medical school for dissection. After being abandoned and filled in with rubble in the 19th century, they were forgotten for over 100 years, only to be rediscovered by chance in the 1980s. Today, they are a tourist attraction, a chilling reminder of the harsh realities of urban life just a few generations ago. Massive stone doors, like giant millstones, could be rolled into place to block the passages, sealing the inhabitants off from invaders on the surface. Imagine living your entire life by the light of oil lamps, your world a maze of stone, hearing the muffled sounds of the world above, a world you could not safely enter. It's a testament to human ingenuity and the desperate will to survive. These discoveries are rarely simple. Unearthing a tunnel is just the beginning of a long and delicate process. Archaeologists must work with extreme care. The environment inside a sealed tunnel is fragile. A sudden influx of fresh air can damage delicate artifacts like wood or fabric that have been preserved for centuries in the stable Loxygen conditions. They use ground-penetrating radar to map the extent of the network before ever breaking ground. Once inside, the excavation is like a forensic investigation. Every shovelful of dirt is sifted for clues. A shard of pottery, a rusted tool, a simple coin, each object is a piece of the puzzle. These artifacts help to date the tunnels and tell the story of who used them and why. Was this a sewer, a smuggler's route, or a secret chapel? The placement of objects, the soot marks on the ceiling from torches, even the graffiti carved into the walls, all whisper stories to those who know how to listen. It's a slow, painstaking process that requires patience and a deep respect for the past. The stories these tunnels tell are intensely human. They speak of fear and hope, of everyday work and secret dealings. They are a physical connection to the lives of people who walked the same ground as us, but in a vastly different world. When we explore these hidden spaces, we're not just looking at old stones. We're walking in the footsteps of our ancestors. We can almost hear the echo of their conversations, the rumble of carts in the street above the clandestine whisper of a secret being shared. These subterranean worlds remind us that the cities we live in are not static. They are living, breathing organisms with a deep and often hidden history. The next time you walk down an old city street, take a moment. Think about what might lie beneath your feet. A Roman road, a medieval cellar, a forgotten passageway. The modern world is just the latest chapter in a very, very long story. And some of the most fascinating pages are buried just out of sight, waiting to be rediscovered. The quiet secrets of the past are all around us, silent and patient, holding the memories of the city's soul. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the world beneath our feet. If you found this exploration as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history's hidden corners. Let me know in the comments which ancient city's secrets you'd like to uncover next. Until then, keep looking for the history that's all around you. See you next time. The candle flame dances, a solitary spark in the vast, velvet dark of the workshop. Here, time seems to stretch and thin, measured not by the steady tick of a clock, but by the slow drip of a ruby-red liquid from a glass retort. The only other sounds are the whisper of my own breath and the gentle crackle of the hearth, its embers glowing like a sleeping dragon's eye. Outside, the world is hushed, surrendered to the moon's silent reign. But in here, my world is wide awake, teeming with possibilities. My hands, stained with the memory of 100 different elements, move with a familiar rhythm. They cradle a small crucible, its ceramic cool against my fingertips before I place it into the heart of the fire. This is the first step, the simplest transformation. But it's the beginning of a much grander question, a riddle whispered down through centuries. Can the base be made noble? Can what is common become divine? Beside the hearth, shelves climb towards the high-beamed ceiling, a library of earthly secrets, files containing oils pressed from moon-blessed flowers and salts harvested from a long-dead sea. Each one is a note in a grand, unfinished symphony. My work tonight is to find the harmony between them. I add a pinch of ground cinnabar to the molten lead. It hisses, a fleeting breath of protest, and a plume of pale smoke rises, carrying the sharp scent of sulfur and something else, something ancient and wild. This is where knowledge meets intuition, where the written formula gives way to the unspoken feeling. It's a delicate dance on the edge of the unknown. For 2 minutes, the world has been just this crucible, this fire, this question. Now, let's step back. Why do we chase these transformations? Why stay awake when the world sleeps, driven by the hope of turning lead into gold? Perhaps the true alchemy isn't about metal at all. Maybe it's about us. Every day we wake up and we are, in a sense, lead. We carry our burdens, our routines, our perceived limitations. We feel solid, heavy, and sometimes a little dull. But within each of us is the potential for gold. There is a core of brilliance, a spirit that yearns to be brighter, purer, more valuable, not in a monetary sense, but in a way that enriches our very existence. The alchemist's quest is a metaphor for our own journey of self-improvement, of spiritual growth. It's about taking the raw material of who we are and, through trial, effort, and a little bit of fire, refining it into the best version of ourselves. Think of the challenges you face: a difficult project at work, a strained relationship, a personal fear you've been avoiding. These are our base metals. They're tough, unyielding, and often we'd rather just leave them as they are. But the alchemical process teaches us that it's only by applying heat, by engaging with the difficulty, by facing the discomfort, that change can begin. The crucible of life doesn't just melt us down. It reveals our impurities so we can skim them away. The frustration, the setbacks, the moments of doubt, these are the smoky hisses, the signs that a reaction is taking place. It's not failure, it's refinement. My own journey began with a simple fascination for the way things change. I watched rust bloom on iron, a slow, patient fire. I saw crystals grow in a saturated solution, order emerging from chaos as if by magic. I realized that the universe is in a constant state of flux, of becoming. Nothing is static. And if the world around me could so fluidly transform, why couldn't I? So I built this laboratory, not just of glass and stone, but of intention. Each experiment with mercury and salt is an experiment with my own patience and courage. Each failed attempt to create the philosopher's stone is a lesson in humility and resilience. What is your laboratory? Maybe it's a journal where you distill your thoughts. Maybe it's the gym where you temper the strength of your body. It could be the quiet moments of meditation where you seek to purify your mind, or the conversations where you try to turn misunderstanding into connection. We are all alchemists in our own lives, whether we use that word or not. We are constantly mixing the elements of our experience, joy and sorrow, success and failure, hoping to create something more meaningful, something that shines. Look at this flask here. It holds a solution I've been working on for weeks. It's a deep, vibrant blue, the color of a twilight sky. It started as a murky brown sludge, a mix of copper filings and a weak acid. For days, nothing happened. It was ugly, inert, a failure. I was tempted to discard it, but something told me to wait. I added a catalyst, a tiny, almost insignificant crystal of pure salt, and I waited. Slowly, miraculously, the sludge began to clear. The brown particles settled, and this incredible blue emerged. It wasn't a sudden, explosive change. It was a gradual clarification, a patient becoming. We feel stuck in the murky brown of our efforts. We feel like we're getting nowhere. But then we introduce a small catalyst, a kind word from a friend, an inspiring book, a sudden moment of insight during a quiet walk, and slowly things begin to clear. The confusion settles, and a new color, a new clarity emerges in our lives. The key is not to give up on the murky sludge. The key is patience and the faith that a change is happening, even when we cannot yet see it. The old texts speak of the great work, the magnum opus. It's the ultimate goal of alchemy, the creation of the philosopher's stone, a substance said to grant enlightenment and turn lead to gold. But the wisest alchemists knew that the great work wasn't about the destination. It was about the process itself. It was about the discipline, the knowledge, the self-discovery learned along the way. The alchemist who completes the great work is not the same person who began it. They have been transformed by the journey. Imagine a world lit only by candlelight, where the edges of the known world are drawn in charcoal and ink. A medieval mapmaker leans over a stretched piece of parchment, a world of possibilities and perils held within the delicate tip of his quill. He sketches coastlines from sailors' tales, mountains from merchants' whispers, and islands that might be real or might just be mirages born of sea-weary eyes. A slightly misplaced coastline, a forgotten reef, an island that existed only in folklores. They were potential tragedies waiting to unfold. Think of the immense pressure on that solitary mapmaker. Every line he drew was a heavy responsibility. The tales he heard were often fragmented, embellished, or simply wrong. A sailor, having narrowly survived a tempest, might describe a sea monster with tentacles as tall as the mast. And this creature would find its way onto the map, a terrifying guardian of the unknown. Another might speak of a land of endless bounty, a paradise just over the horizon, and this too would be inked, a siren's call to the desperate or the greedy. These maps, beautiful in their own right, with their elaborate compass roses and fantastical beasts, were a double-edged sword. They pushed the boundaries of human exploration, fueling the desire to see what lay beyond the next wave. But they also led brave souls into the heart of the unknown, where the only certainty was uncertainty itself. The wind, which one moment could be a gentle guide, could turn into a raging fury, tearing sails and splintering wood. The calm, glassy sea could be a deceptive mask for powerful, unseen currents that could drag a vessel far off course into waters from which there was no return. The journey was a gamble, and the map was the hand they were dealt. Let's sail back in time, not just to the mapmaker's quiet study, but on to the very decks of the ships that used these charts. Feel the salt spray on your face, the creak of the timber beneath your feet. The world is a vast, blue expanse. Days turn into weeks. The only constants are the sun, the moon, and the stars' celestial guides that offered a more reliable, if more complex, map of the heavens. Navigators would squint at the night sky, using astrolabes and crossstaffs to plot their position, constantly cross-referencing their celestial readings with the hand-drawn map unfurled on the captain's table. Often, the two wouldn't align. The stars would tell one story, the map another. Who do you trust? The unchanging heavens, or the work of a man hundreds of miles away who has never seen these waters himself? This was the navigator's dilemma. A choice could mean the difference between discovering a new trade route and disappearing without a trace. Imagine the gnawing anxiety as food and fresh water supplies dwindled, with land nowhere in sight, even though the map insisted it should be just a day's sail away. The crew's hopeful faces would slowly turn to despair, their trust in their captain and his map eroding with each passing empty dawn. The blank spaces on these maps were the most honest part. They were a confession of ignorance, a humble admission that humanity had not yet conquered the globe. But human nature abhors a vacuum. And so these spaces were filled, not with data, but with fear and fantasy. Sea serpents, krakens, and whirlpools that could swallow a ship whole. These weren't just whimsical doodles. They were warnings, They represented the very real dangers of the open ocean rogue waves, sudden squalls, the sheer terror of being lost in an endless wilderness of water. The monsters were metaphors for the raw, untamable power of nature. Yet, for every ship lost, another returned, battered but triumphant, its hold filled with exotic spices, strange artifacts, and new stories. The survivors would seek out the mapmakers, their tales adding new lines, new islands, new dangers to the ever-evolving portrait of the world. A coastline would be redrawn, a mythical island erased, a newly discovered strait added. Each journey, successful or not, was a contribution to a collective, growing knowledge. The map was a living document, constantly being corrected and updated by the sacrifices and successes of those who tested its limits. The psychological toll on these early explorers must have been immense. Far from home, surrounded by a small group of fellow sailors, the vastness of the ocean could easily feel like a crushing loneliness. Superstition would run rampant. A strange cloud formation, a pod of dolphins behaving unusually, a bird species they didn't recognize, all could be interpreted as omens, good or bad. The map, with its promises of land and its warnings of monsters, was their only tangible link to a world of order and reason. When it failed them, the psychological anchor was gone, leaving them adrift, not just on the water, but in their own minds. It's a testament to human courage and curiosity that people kept sailing. They knew the risks. They had heard the stories of ships that sailed over the horizon and were never seen again. They knew the maps were imperfect, but the desire to know, to see, to discover was stronger than the fear of the unknown. Each voyage was an act of faith in their ship, in their crew, in their God, and in the flawed, beautiful, and dangerous map that was their only guide. They were not just exploring the world, they were charting the very limits of human knowledge, one perilous league at a time. And as we sit here today, with the entire world mapped and available at our fingertips, it's worth remembering those who sailed into the blank spaces, armed with little more than a piece of parchment and an abundance of courage. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you found this relaxing, consider following 4 more stories from the quiet corners of history. Close your eyes and take a deep, slow breath. Imagine a time long ago in a small village nestled in a quiet valley. The sky above is a familiar canopy of stars, a nightly spectacle the villagers have known since birth. But tonight, something is different. A hush falls over the land as a creeping shadow begins to consume the moon. A collective gasp ripples through the community. The familiar silver disk is disappearing, eaten by an unseen force. To them, this isn't a celestial alignment. It's a cosmic disruption, a sign from the heavens. Whispers turn to panicked cries. Is a great beast devouring the light? Have they angered the spirits of the night? In the darkness, fear takes root. Elders begin to chant, beating drums to scare away the shadow beast. They light fires, hoping their earthly flames can rekindle the moon's celestial glow. They make offerings, desperate to restore the natural order. They don't know about orbits or the Earth's shadow. They only know that the world they understand has been thrown into chaos, and they must do something, anything, to bring back the light. A few seasons later, another visitor arrives in the night sky. This one is not a shadow, but a brilliant, fiery streak with a long, ethereal tail. It hangs there, night after night, a silent, blazing messenger. The villagers call it the Hairy Star. Its arrival is met with awe, but also with deep suspicion. What does it portend? sickness, famine, the fall of a king. It's an omen, a tear in the fabric of the night. Soothsayers and shamans are consulted. They look for patterns in its shimmering tale, trying to decipher a message that isn't there. They see a sword in the sky, a ghostly finger pointing towards their future. The entire village holds its breath, waiting for the prophecy of the hairy star to unfold. Every misfortune that follows, a poor harvest, a sickness in the flock, is blamed on its silent, watchful presence. They couldn't know it was just a ball of ice and rock making its long, lonely journey around the sun. Their world was explained not by physics, but by stories, by myths born from the profound human need to find meaning in the unknown. And in the face of these grand cosmic mysteries, their stories were often tinged with fear. Now, let your own mind drift away from those ancient fears. Feel the weight of your body sinking comfortably into your bed. Let the rhythm of your breath be your anchor. Inhale slowly and exhale completely. With each breath, release a little more tension. Let the worries of your day fade like those old misunderstandings. Think of those villagers again, not with judgment, but with gentle understanding. Their lives were intimately connected to the cycles of nature. The rising sun meant warmth and work. The setting sun meant rest and storytelling. The phases of the moon dictated planting and harvesting. The stars were their map, their calendar, their book of legends. When that predictable world was disturbed, it was a deeply personal event. Imagine the sound of the wind rustling through the leaves, a sound they knew well. But on a night of a strange celestial event, that same sound might seem like a whisper of spirits. The hoot of an owl, usually a familiar night call, could suddenly sound like a warning. Their senses were heightened, their imaginations ignited by the grand, silent drama unfolding above them. They lived in a world alive with meaning, where every rock, tree, and cloud had a story. This deep connection also brought a sense of helplessness. When the sky changed without warning, they couldn't simply look up the answer. They had to create one. And the easiest answer, the most primal one, is fear. Fear is a powerful instinct designed to protect us. For them, it was safer to fear the eclipse and perform a ritual than to do nothing. It was a way of reclaiming some small sense of control in a world that felt suddenly, terrifyingly unpredictable. The drumming, the chanting, the fires, these were not just acts of superstition. They were acts of community, of shared purpose. In the face of overwhelming cosmic power, they stood together, their voices and heartbeats united against the encroaching darkness. They created rituals that gave them comfort, a structured response to chaos. They found solace in shared action. Let that feeling of shared comfort wash over you now. You are not alone in this quiet moment. Just as the villagers found unity in their rituals, you can find a sense of peace in this shared, quiet space of rest. Let the darkness behind your eyelids be a soft, protective blanket, not a source of fear. There are no cosmic beasts here, only stillness and the promise of deep, restorative sleep. Feel the muscles in your face relax, your jaw, your forehead, your cheeks. Let them all go soft. Your shoulders, which have carried the weight of the day, can now release their burden. Let them sink down, away from your ears. Your arms and your hands feel heavy and warm. Think of the rain. To the villagers, a gentle rain was a blessing, nurturing their crops. A sudden, violent thunderstorm, however, was the rage of a sky god, the flash of lightning, a spear thrown in anger, the roar of thunder, a furious shout. They would huddle in their homes, praying for the storm to pass, making promises to appease the angered deity. They saw personality and intention in the weather. They didn't have the science of atmospheric pressure and electrical charges. They had stories of sky spirits and epic battles fought among the clouds. These stories, while born of misunderstanding, were also incredibly creative. They painted the world with a vibrant palette of myth and magic, turning a simple storm into a grand narrative. It's a testament to the human mind's incredible ability to weave stories, to create a tapestry of meaning from the threads of the unknown. Allow your own mind to become quiet now. Let the stories fade away. Let the mental chatter cease, just as the thunder eventually rumbles into silence. Your mind deserves this rest. Your body craves this stillness. Focus again on your breath, a slow, easy inhale, a long, gentle exhale. Follow the air as it enters your body, bringing calm and oxygen to every cell. Follow it as it leaves, carrying away any lingering tightness or unease. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be. Just be here, in this moment of perfect peace. Let the gentle rhythm of your breathing be the only story you listen to. Imagine the northern lights, the aurora. For a people living in the far north, this would have been a recurring, yet always magical, event. Shimmering curtains of green, pink, and violet light dancing silently across the cold, dark sky. What could they have thought? Some believed they were the spirits of their ancestors dancing in the afterlife. Others saw them as bridges to the spirit world. Or perhaps they were the reflections of shields and armor from a great battle of the gods. The silence of the display was perhaps the most mysterious part. Such a magnificent spectacle, yet it made no sound. It was a silent, divine dance. They would watch in hushed reverence, feeling the immense power and beauty of their world. A world where the sacred was not confined to a temple, but was painted nightly across the heavens. This sense of wonder is something we can still connect with, even with our scientific understanding. We can look at the stars and feel a sense of awe. We can watch a sunset and feel a sense of peace. The universe is no less beautiful for being understood. In fact, the knowledge that we are part of this vast, intricate cosmos can be deeply comforting. We are made of the same elements as the stars. We are connected to everything. Let that feeling of connection guide you deeper into sleep. You are connected to the quiet of the night. You are a part of the natural rhythm of day and night, of waking and sleeping. Your body knows this rhythm. Trust it. Allow it to take over. Let go of the need to control your thoughts. Let them drift by like clouds in the sky. Some may be dark, others light and wispy. Just observe them without judgment as they float on by, leaving behind a clear, peaceful sky of the mind. Your breathing is slow and steady now. Your body is heavy and relaxed. You are safe. You are comfortable. You are on the edge of a deep and wonderful sleep. Let go and allow yourself to drift into the peaceful, restorative darkness. Sleep now. Sleep well. Have you ever considered that some of the most beautiful aspects of our world, the very things that bring us comfort and understanding, were born from moments of deep uncertainty and even fear? It's a strange thought, isn't it? We often look at the past through a lens of inevitability, as if every discovery was a simple, straight line from question to answer. But the truth is, the path of human knowledge is a winding one, often leading us through dark forests of the unknown before we ever find a sunlit clearing. For centuries, our ancestors looked up at the night sky with a mix of awe and terror. The stars were distant, unknowable fires. Comets were seen as omens, harbingers of disaster. The vast, silent darkness of space wasn't an invitation to explore. It was a mirror reflecting our own smallness, our own vulnerability in a universe we couldn't comprehend. Imagine the courage it took for the first astronomers to suggest that Earth was not the center of everything. To us, it's a fact learned in elementary school, but to them, it was a profound and terrifying shift. It meant we weren't special, just one small planet orbiting one of countless stars. This idea shook the very foundations of society, of religion, of how people saw their place in the cosmos. It was a frightening discovery. Yet, from that fear, something incredible grew. We started to see the universe not as a threat, but as a grand, intricate puzzle. That initial fear gave way to a wave of curiosity that has carried us all the way to the moon and beyond. It taught us that our place in the universe isn't defined by being at its center, but by our unique ability to look out and wonder what's next. Think about the invisible world all around us. Before the invention of the microscope, the causes of sickness were a mystery, often attributed to curses or bad air. This terrifying discovery has saved countless lives and extended our lifespans in ways our ancestors could never have dreamed of. The fear of the unseen pushed us to develop tools to see it, and in seeing it, we learned to protect ourselves. We transformed a source of terror into one of our greatest triumphs in medicine. So, as we settle in tonight, let us hold on to this thought. Even our deepest fears can be the seeds of our greatest growth. The journey of humanity is a testament to our ability to face the dark, not with despair, but with a flickering light of curiosity. A light that has always, eventually, shown us the way forward. And now, as the world outside grows quiet, let's allow our own minds to find that same sense of peace. Let your body grow heavy, sinking gently into the surface beneath you. Release the day. Let go of the lists, the worries, the conversations that echo in your mind. They can wait. For now, there is only this moment, this breath. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your chest, in and out, a simple, steady rhythm, like the quiet tide of a calm sea. Each breath is an anchor holding you in this peaceful present. If your mind begins to wander, that's okay. Gently guide it back to your breath. There's no need for judgment, only gentle redirection. In this space, you are safe. You are at rest. Imagine a soft, warm light beginning to glow in the center of your chest. It's the color of a gentle sunrise, full of warmth and calm. With each breath in, this light grows a little brighter, a little warmer. With each breath out, it expands, spreading its peaceful energy throughout your body. Feel it moving down your arms, all the way to the tips of your fingers. Feel it flowing down through your torso, loosening any tension in your stomach and back. Let it travel down your legs, soothing your muscles, all the way to the soles of your feet. Your entire body is now filled with this gentle, calming light. You are warm, relaxed, and completely at ease. Let's drift back for a moment to that idea of curiosity. It's the engine of history, the quiet force that has pushed us to climb the highest mountains and dive to the deepest parts of the ocean. It's what drove sailors across vast, uncharted waters with nothing but stars to guide them. They didn't know what they would find. They faced storms, uncertainty, and the very real fear of sailing off the edge of the world. But their curiosity was stronger than their fear, and because of it, our maps were redrawn, new lands were discovered, and our understanding of our own planet expanded immeasurably. They didn't just discover new places, they discovered new possibilities. They proved that the horizon is not an end, but an invitation. This same spirit lives in the scientists who spend their lives studying the intricate dance of particles smaller than an atom. They are exploring a universe just as mysterious as the one above our heads. They are asking questions that might not have answers for generations. What is consciousness? Where did everything come from? This pursuit is not always easy. It's filled with dead ends, failed experiments, and moments of profound doubt. But the deep, unyielding curiosity about the fundamental nature of reality keeps them going. They are the cartographers of the invisible, mapping out the very fabric of existence. Their work may seem abstract, but it's this foundational knowledge that will lead to the technologies and understandings of tomorrow. Every great leap forward in history began as a simple question. I wonder what would happen if. That same spark is in you, too. It's the part of you that wants to learn a new skill, read a new book, or understand a different point of view. It's the quiet voice that asks why and how. This curiosity is not just for grand discoveries, it's for our own personal growth. It's what helps us connect with others, to understand their stories and their perspectives. It's what keeps our minds active and engaged with the beautiful complexity of life. It's a reminder that we are always learning, always evolving, always becoming. History isn't just something that happens to us. It's a story we are all actively writing with every question we ask and every new thing we learn. The desire to know more is woven into our very being. It's a gentle, persistent current that pulls humanity ever forward toward a future that is brighter and more understood than the past. And as you drift closer to sleep, let that feeling of gentle curiosity merge with a sense of deep contentment. There is so much we don't know, and that is a wonderful thing. It means there are still mysteries to unravel, still stars to reach for, still beauty to be discovered. The universe is not a closed book. Its pages are still being written, and we are privileged to be a part of its unfolding story. Feel a sense of gratitude for the journey of all those who came before us, those who faced their fears and followed their curiosity into the unknown, lighting the path for us. And feel a sense of hope for all those who will come after, who will take the light of our knowledge and carry it even further. Your mind can be at peace now. The need to know, the need to understand, can be set aside for the night. You can rest in the knowledge that the quest continues, carried on by the collective spirit of humanity. History will continue to move forward, one question, one discovery, one dream at a time. And tomorrow, you will wake up a small but vital part of that incredible, ongoing journey. But for now, it is time for rest. Let go of all thought, let go of all effort. Allow the gentle current of sleep to carry you away. Sink deeper and deeper into a state of profound and peaceful slumber. There is nothing to do, nothing to solve, only rest. Sleep well. Thank you for listening.